Welcome back to our channel World of Royals.
Chanel has reportedly drawn a line that almost never gets drawn. Not quietly, not temporarily, and not in just one country. According to people familiar with the situation, the decision applies globally. Meghan Markle is said to be unwelcome inside Chanel boutiques worldwide. No private appointments, no special access, no backroom viewings, nothing. For a fashion house as controlled and historically disciplined as Chanel, this kind of move is extremely rare. When Chanel closes a door, it does not reopen out of emotion. It does not negotiate publicly. It does not explain itself. It simply moves on. And that silence may be the loudest part of the story. Behind the scenes, Meghan reportedly sees the situation very differently. She has told associates that this is not about policy, not about brand alignment, not about business. In her view, this is proof she has been targeted from the beginning. She claimed Chanel undermined her during past collaborations, that executives dismissed her ideas, that she was treated as a symbol, not a serious creative voice. Meetings, she says, felt one-sided. Suggestions were acknowledged politely, then quietly ignored. According to her version of events, she was never meant to be a partner, only a polished figurehead. And the moment she pushed for more creative input, the tone shifted. People close to the situation describe a gradual cooling, fewer invitations, shorter meetings, decisions made without consultation. Conversations that once felt friendly became strictly transactional. From Meghan's perspective, this was not a natural professional disagreement. It was a warning. She now frames a legal tension that followed not as routine brand protection, but as a message, a reminder of hierarchy, a signal that she had stepped outside her role. In her telling, Chanel's actions were about control, not creativity. There have even been quiet conversations about a possible counter-lawsuit, claims of reputational harm, professional sabotage, attempts to shut her out of the industry entirely. But according to those familiar with the legal landscape, that plan never moved forward. And Chanel's response? Nothing. No public defense. No emotional statement. No counter-accusations. Just silence. In the luxury world, silence is not confusion. It is not weakness. It is power. And since that silence began, it has only grown louder. One moment, now widely discussed behind closed doors, reportedly took place at a Chanel boutique in Beverly Hills. According to retail insiders, Meghan arrived expecting the kind of private treatment she had once received without question: discreet entry, personal attention, immediate accommodation. Instead, she was stopped. Security informed her calmly that the brand would not be engaging with her. No raised voices, no dramatic confrontation, just a refusal. Witnesses say she stood still for a few seconds, as if the words didn't register. Then everything changed. According to those present, she stepped outside and immediately called Prince Harry. She began pacing. Her voice rose. The composure slipped. People nearby say she insisted staff would be fired before the day was over, that she would make calls, that those responsible would regret humiliating her. For someone who publicly speaks often about compassion, emotional health, and kindness, the contrast was difficult to ignore. Sources close to Harry say he tried to calm the situation. He reportedly urged her to leave, to lower her voice, to stop drawing attention. But this wasn't really about the boutique. It was about something much bigger. When brands stop accommodating you, the illusion of influence disappears quickly. And according to multiple accounts, that is the part Meghan is struggling with most, because in certain circles, access equals status. And status, once questioned, is hard to recover. This incident also came at a fragile time. Financial pressure, according to insiders, has been building quietly. Projects once expected to create long-term stability have stalled. Some have dissolved entirely. Revenue streams that looked solid on paper have narrowed. Behind the scenes, there is reportedly constant recalculation, a growing urgency to regain relevance before public silence turns permanent. Sources say Meghan is eager for doors to reopen, for Netflix or Spotify to reconsider, for another major platform to signal that she still carries weight. But the industry mood has shifted. Executives are no longer mistaking controversy for momentum. Instead of seeing disruption as bold, they see fatigue. Instead of drama generating curiosity, it now generates hesitation. And that hesitation is spreading. What once felt like strategic tension now feels, to many decision makers, like risk without reward. And in industries driven by image and predictability, that is a dangerous reputation to carry. The boutique incident was not just about one store. It was a public symbol of something deeper, a signal that accommodation is no longer automatic. As the tension with Chanel solidified, conversations reportedly began shifting toward geography. According to people familiar with internal discussions, relocation has been floated more than once. Canada, Australia, places where Meghan believed the public might be more open, more forgiving, more willing to separate past controversies from present ambition. But private polling, insiders say, tells a harsher story. Public sentiment in both countries is described as deeply negative. The goodwill she once relied on has thinned. In some circles, it has vanished entirely. At the same time, European fashion doors are said to be closing just as firmly. Paris fashion circles, already irritated by what some ascribe as self-invited appearances and gate-crashing moments, have reportedly drawn boundaries. Major houses are believed to have quietly agreed on distance, not loudly, not dramatically, just decisively. The assessment, according to multiple industry figures, is consistent. Too disruptive, too controlling, too unpredictable. And in luxury fashion, unpredictability is not exciting. It is expensive. Stories circulating inside the industry have only reinforced that perception. One account describes Meghan reacting sharply when a staff member brought her coffee instead of green tea. Not a gentle correction, a public reprimand. According to people familiar with that moment, the staffer resigned the next day, whether exaggerated or not. Insiders say the story fits a pattern they have heard repeatedly. Assistants reduced to tears. Service workers embarrassed. Team members afraid to speak honestly. Individually, each account could be dismissed as gossip, but collectively, they form something harder to ignore, a reputation. And reputation, especially in fashion and entertainment, spreads faster than any press release. Publicly, Meghan continues to speak about kindness, emotional health, and empowerment. Privately, according to those who have worked near her, there is a very different narrative unfolding. The gap between message and behavior has become a topic of quiet discussion across multiple industries. And that gap may be doing more damage than any single headline. Because brands can survive controversy. What they struggle to survive is inconsistency. And once doubt begins to circulate about temperament and control, risk calculations change immediately, which brings the situation to an uncomfortable reality. It is no longer just about one fashion house. It is about consensus. And as that consensus grows, the pressure has reportedly begun shifting closer to home. According to people close to Prince Harry, something inside him has started to change. He is said to be reflecting more openly now, speaking about life in the United Kingdom, about routine, about familiarity, about what stability once looked like. Sources claim he has privately admitted that leaving the royal structure may have been a mistake, that what felt like freedom at the time slowly became something far more complicated. There are even whispers that he has considered reaching out quietly to the palace, not publicly, not dramatically, but carefully, asking whether there is any path back, any way to rebuild something that resembles grounding. But insiders say the biggest obstacle may not be the palace. It may be the dynamic inside his own marriage. Multiple accounts describe a pattern where Harry avoids confrontation, where he lowers his voice instead of raising it, where he steps back when tension rises. People who have witnessed public exchanges say he often appears visibly uncomfortable when Meghan lashes out, yet remains silent. One source described it as watching someone slowly fade in real time, standing beside her, but not fully present. As Chanel's blacklist holds firm, as Paris remains closed, as major brands quietly distance themselves, as financial pressure intensifies, Meghan is reportedly confronting something she has never truly faced before. Unified silence. No public defense. No institutional shield. No powerful ally stepping in to override the mood. In the world she once relied on, fashion, entertainment, even royalty, silence does not mean confusion. It means a decision has already been made. And this time, outrage isn't reopening doors. Accusations aren't shifting power. Statements aren't changing perception. Silence is winning. Because an industry is built on image, hierarchy, and control, exclusion doesn't arrive with noise. It arrives with nothing at all. And when nothing becomes the answer everywhere, the message is impossible to misunderstand. What makes this moment different is not just the loss of access. It's the absence of resistance. There was a time when controversy created movement, when headlines, even negative ones, translated into interviews, contracts, invitations. Attention was currency, and attention kept doors unlocked. But insiders say that equation has changed. Executives are no longer impressed by turbulence. Investors are no longer persuaded by spectacle. Brands are no longer willing to absorb instability in exchange for temporary buzz. Now, the calculation is simpler. Does this partnership bring stability? Does it bring growth? Or does it bring distraction? And according to people familiar with recent discussions, the answer has become increasingly consistent. Too much volatility, too little return. That is why the silence feels coordinated, not dramatic, not emotional, just firm. Major houses are said to have aligned quietly. Studios are hesitating. Platforms are cautious. Even former allies are described as distant. No formal announcement. No public blacklist registry. Just closed calendars and unanswered calls. And perhaps most striking of all, no appetite for negotiation. Because in elite circles, reputation is not destroyed in a single moment. It erodes, gradually, through repetition, through patterns, through stories that begin as whispers and end as assumptions. Right now, those whispers are louder than any statement. The image Meghan once cultivated, resilience, disruption, reinvention, is colliding with a different narrative. Unpredictability, conflict, instability, whether fair or exaggerated, no longer seems to matter. Perception has settled. And once perception settles at the top levels of fashion, entertainment, and power, reversal becomes almost impossible. That may be the hardest part to accept. Not rejection with explanation, not conflict with negotiation, but exclusion without conversation. Because when doors close loudly, you can argue. When they close quietly, you are simply outside. And according to those watching this unfold, that is where Meghan now finds herself. Outside the boutique, outside the boardrooms, outside the inner circles that once amplified her. In a world defined by hierarchy, silence is not accidental. It is final,